Hey, everybody, welcome to another Sunday morning conversation. Today, my guest is Dr. Paul Gertler. He is an Australian clinical psychologist and TBI in neuro rehab. He is also director of NeuroBITE, which is a valuable resource that is actually underutilized in the United States. And if you could all check it out, the link is going to be in the description. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate it.
Eric.
Hi, Doc. How are you?
Good, good. I'm so sorry about that. I don't know what happened there.
Well, here's the thing. It shows up Google Meet at the top, and I don't know why, but we're in Zoom, so it zooms at the bottom. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
How are you going?
Not too bad. I just got up since it's early.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking it's I was just thinking, 6 a.m., Anyway.
Well, what are you gonna do? That's how different our times are.
Yeah, exactly. So I was really interested when you invited me to talk. I know this is like you're supposed to be interviewing me, but I'd love to know a little bit about you, if that's okay.
That's fine. So I got my TBI from when I was riding my bike to work. I live in Atlanta, which is, Eastern time zone. Atlanta's a fairly big city. It's like 6.2 million people in the metro. I was riding from one side of Atlanta all the way to the other because I worked in Decatur. So it was a 15-mile ride. And I was about 1 mile short of getting there when I got hit by a Tahoe going about 50 miles an hour, or that's like 70 kilometers or something. No.
And that's a big vehicle.
It's a SUV. Yeah.
Right. That's a big, yeah. We're starting to get them here, but we don't generally have such huge SUVs here yet. But
we've had them for a while.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Wow. So, and how long ago was that?
2017.
Okay.
Don't worry, I don't mind her.
Okay, that's my wife.
Sorry. It's okay.
I don't think she realizes it's being recorded. I'm just going to move it a little bit. Sorry about
People just listen to it. They don't really watch.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So, so that's what happened to you.
Yep.
And it looks like you're deeply into triathlon. Have you always been into triathlon?
I was before. I started in 2014. So. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I like the cycling part. I do a bit of that. I do a bit of the swimming part. I don't really run. I would love triathlon if it didn't include running.
You can do a duathlon. No, it's an aqua bike. That's right.
Right. Okay. So what did you want to talk about? You asked me to ask, for me to answer questions. So I'll stop asking you questions.
Two things, actually. You work on depression, right? With TBI patients. So you should know that I did ketamine therapy for depression.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I don't know if they do that so much there.
It's, there was actually something that came out today where one of the ketamine brands has been approved for depression over here. So it's fairly new. But yeah, it seems to be like quite a good option for treatment-resistant depression. So that's good.
Yeah, and I wanted to know your work about it with depression because, when I did that ketamine therapy, it works just as advertised. After I walked out of my first session, it seemed like, birds, I could hear birds again. Everything seemed a little bit crisper. The colors didn't seem as gray. My fiance at the time told me that's bullshit. I'm like, no, it was true. So, yeah.
Wow. So, so it worked for you. I mean, I'm a psychologist, so I tend to use, I can't actually prescribe medication. So I don't tend to use medical treatments, but what I do is I often do like evaluations of treatment, and very often I'm working with psychiatrists who are prescribing different medications.
Yeah, I figured that's what you did, but I just looked up all your research before, and I also saw you're director of NeuroBITE, and I have no idea what that is.
Yeah. So NeuroBITE is a a database of treatment outcome studies for all different neurological conditions. So it started out about 20 years ago with effectively cataloging all of the non-medication, so again, not medication, interventions for the effects of neurological disorders, and kind of the core group that started it all work in TBI research. So, and I myself, as you know, did my research in TBI, mostly work in TBI, but it also includes dementia, stroke, other sorts of ABIs, that sort of thing. And, you know, one of the things about NeuroBITE is that unlike other databases, most other databases will just give you results, tell you what's available. So if you do a Google search, you'll get like a really kind of uncurated sort of results. But what we do is we actually look at all of the research papers that go in there and we rate them for their method quality. And so when you go into NeuroBITE, you can hopefully see where there's an intervention or some research that relates to the treatment you're interested in, but also it will give a rating of how good the study itself was, so how much you can rely upon it.
What's the criteria you use to rate them? Like, how do you do that? Like, what's the metrics involved?
Yeah, so there's two types of rating scales we use. So we have group studies in the database, so randomized control trials, or studies where they're comparing two different groups. And so there's a method quality rating scale called the PEDRO, which was designed originally by physiotherapists. And so it'll look at things like, you know, how well matched were the groups at the beginning? So did they start from the same baseline? So if you look at my area of depression, it says, right, did they actually get a measure of depression before they started the intervention? Were they roughly equal? And, you know, in reporting the results, did the authors kind of describe all of the variability in the findings? So, you know, whether there's enough information from the paper to be able to draw from that and say, this is a reliable finding. So that's one of the rating scales. One of the other rating scale is relating to single case research. So one thing we know is that everybody's different and every brain injury is different and affects people in different ways. And, you know, you were saying about ketamine. Ketamine worked for you, and maybe other things didn't work for you, even though they were things that have worked for other people. So I don't know what you tried before ketamine.
Pills, Wellbutrin,
pills, yeah.
Wellbutrin,
yeah,
Tuda, something else. The Wellbutrin may be suicidal.
That's not good.
No,
yeah.
It's not.
So, you know, I'm guessing that you were prescribed those things because they were like, there was some evidence for them.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, in any treatment outcome study of like say you have a randomized controlled trial, even the best randomized controlled trial might find a treatment is effective for 65 to 70% of people, which leaves 30 to 35% of people that were in the trial that didn't get any benefit from it, which is a huge proportion. And so what we don't know from randomized controlled trials is why those people didn't get benefit from that treatment. And so what we can do is we can do single case research where we very much get a lot of detail about a particular case. And if you had a look at my research, you would have seen that I used a treatment called behavioral activation, which is a fairly simple treatment, and looked at 3 individuals. And in studying them and their response to that treatment, I measured them 3 times a day for 6 months at a time to see whether there was a significant change in their ratings of their mood if we gave them different kind of situations. So or different treatments. So we wanted to see, like, at a microscopic level, what was the change in their treatment response if we introduced different things and we took them away. So we can honestly say that for, you know, one of those three people, that treatment made a difference, and for the other two, it didn't. And we can see what components of the treatment made a difference. And that's a roundabout way of getting to the answer to your question, which was, how do you do those method ratings? In doing that, we looked at, you know, was the measure that they were rated with tightly controlled? Was it easily quantifiable? Could it be repeated by other people if they wanted to try the same treatment? Could people given, you know, another group of researchers given the same set of circumstances know our method and apply the same thing and get the same results? So that sort of thing.
So what are the applications for it? Is it just like a researchable database where physicians and people like search it for relevant case studies?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can go to that, the database. I can put it up and share screen with you if you like.
Sure.
We can have a look at it. Yeah. Let me just, I'm not sure if I've got the authority to do that. You might need to make me a co-host.
I've never had to do that before.
Considering my my technical nous and the trouble I had logging on, this could be a bit hit and miss, but I'd like to show it to you anyway, so you get a sense of what it does. Yeah, I think if you make me a co-host.
Telling me I can make you a host.
Okay.
Let's see. I don't know if that means
I will definitely hand back. I will hand back. Oh, mind you, if you're recording, that might not work. If you're recording, then it might not work because
we'll find out.
We'll find out. Okay. Oh, you're the host now. Okay, we're still recording. Excellent. Okay, great. All right. So if we have a look at this is our homepage. Welcome to NeuroBITE, and so yeah, let's say I'm interested in what's something you would be interested in that's a condition or a treatment, do you think?
For the TBIs, let's look up anxiety.
Excellent. Okay. So this is our search page. If I go to target area, and I've got all these different options here, and I can go to anxiety, so mood anxiety. And we're looking at our neurological group. We're interested in TBI. That's down the bottom here. And we're looking for, like particular age groups. We've got adults, children, or adolescents. Click on search. We currently have 7,342 articles. I click on search out of that lot. It will show us 158 articles that have to do with TBI and anxiety. So in that, we've got what we call practice guidelines. So this is where clinicians and increasingly consumers, so people that are consumers of treatment, will be involved in kind of describing what's best practice. We've got quite a few of these in anxiety and TBI. Then we've got systematic reviews. Systematic reviews are basically very in-depth reviews of all of the research published in a particular area. And if we go down the list, we start to get into randomized controlled studies or group trials. And here we have, just looking for one of the ones that I know pretty well. This is a lovely one from a group from New York, actually. So if I click on that one, it gives me the kind kind of the rating, the better quality rating. It'll open up in Google Scholar a little bit of a window. Oh, you might have lost that on the screen sharing. But effectively, it tells you about this study, but it doesn't give you this study. Oops, go back.
Is this database available to the public, or is it only available through subscription?
That's a good question. It's open source. It's open access. It's available to the public, and anyone can access it from around the world. One thing that you'd need if you access it is you generally need to have some kind of library access, because it won't give you the articles themselves. These ones in purple, sorry, go on.
If it's Google Scholar, we should be able to access it, right? Because that's free.
Yeah. And what you'll be able to get is you'll be able to get like the abstract summary of the article. But absolutely, it's open access. We've never charged for it. We've thought about, one of the key issues that we have at NeuroBITE is that we're always kind of scrabbling for funding. And we thought about whether we should make it a commercial database. But we would like to be able to offer it for free as long as we can. Just want to show you one more thing.
So what is the funding? How do you pay for this all?
Well, we've been funded mostly through the Motor Accidents Authority in New South Wales, which is the state in Australia that we're in. The agency that's been funding us for the last 3 years is the insurance agency that covers motor accidents in New South Wales. So we've just been operating off grant money, and we're about to run out of our funding in about September, and we're sort of madly scrambling to get more funding.
How long did it take to put together this database?
This database has been going for almost 20 years, and I wasn't
a long time
involved.
to have funding.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't always been funded, and it hasn't always been this big, but it's been reliably funded for about the last 10 years. And the other thing that's happened as well is that in the time that it's been running, the amount of research that's being published has increased massively. So every month we've been getting about 6,000 study records that we need to sort through and decide whether they should be on the database or not. When we started 20 years ago, it was more like a few hundred a month. So the task of running the database has become a much bigger thing.
And do you need, so you've needed bigger staff to do that?
Well, we would love bigger staff, that's for sure. And we are lagging behind, just these green numbers over here, these are our method quality ratings for the group studies that I referred to before. And we're fairly current with the database listing. So we're up to 2020 now. So we're only a couple of years behind, but we're years behind with doing those method quality ratings, simply because we don't have the staff for it.
Do you get a lot of articles that are 10 out of 10?
We don't get any articles that are 10 out of 10. One of the reasons why we don't get any articles that are 10 out of 10, I'll just show you. So I'll go back to that one. This shows you the eligibility for the ratings. And one of the eligibility criteria is that the people that are involved in the study, the subjects, need to be blind to the intervention. And in a psychological treatment study, that's pretty much impossible to do, because if you're looking at,
you're putting out an ad, like you put out an ad or whatever, or your doctor's recruiting you, like we're doing a depression trial. Do you want a depression trial? Do you want in? So it's like, well, they already know. Exactly. So yeah, did you want me to keep sharing that screen to have a look at this, or were you? If you want to. All I know is, so I have a psychology degree along with my architecture degrees, and I worked in a research lab for 4 years. But it was survey research. So I'm pretty familiar with how this works. And I hate places like JSTOR that rip you off for at least for people publishing, that's for sure.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, it's nice that it's open access, and I think it sort of says a lot about the way that the internet's changed over that period of time. Yeah, so it's sort of become something where it would be nice to continue to offer it for free, but it would also be great to be able to be getting an income stream that can sustain it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure physicians would be able to pay for it, but people like me, obviously, it's kind of more like a tool to research for us to see what's wrong with us. The only problem is, like you said, brain injuries are unique, and you can never really figure that out.
Well, one thing that I think was, a reason why I was interested to talk to you is that, it's increasingly important, I think, to get a consumer's perspective on research. Like one of the things that's happening right now in research is we're not just looking at the success of treatments, we're also looking at how acceptable they are to the people that we treat, like how much they can adhere to them. Because, if you know yourself, if something's too difficult, it's too many barriers for you to do it, then it's going to be difficult to be involved in that.
Well, I can give you partial feedback because I know how research studies work. Whether I can do it across disciplines because I just know how basic elements of a research study and how to evaluate the research, the data, the collection methods. But normal people like other TBI survivors, odds are they don't know how to do that. So they don't know what they're looking at.
Yep. So we'd hope with this that, and maybe that's one thing we need to do. We need to sort of pivot more towards people with TBIs and different other neurological conditions, because I think there's a lot of power in being able to research what's available for your condition, and how you might be able to go to your treating physician and say, hey, have you thought about this treatment? Or, I read about that, and, do you know anything about this?
Yeah. So, obviously people can read the title and see what it's about, but even from the abstract, they might not be able to pull the information out of what it actually does. Of course they could,
Yes.
Like just print it out and take it to their doctor or copy and paste it, be like, what do you think about this? Even if they don't understand it.
Yes. Now, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I was going to show you something else that we do have.
Okay.
So I'll just go back to sharing screen, and I can go back to that search we did. And go to the target area was anxiety, the neurological group was TBI, do the search, get the results. And if we go through, yes, the purple ones, if you click on that, then what you actually get, is you can get a rehabilitation summary. So you can get a summary of the article. And I'm just going to stop sharing that screen and share a different one so you can see that rehab summary. Wait, okay. So this is from Shari Wade, who is another wonderful American researcher. And what this gives you is it gives you some information about the study itself, so that you don't actually need to have the articles. So if you have a look over on the right-hand side, it tells you what was involved in the treatment. Just highlight that. So it gives you, certainly doesn't give you all the detail that's in the published paper, but it gives you a lot more information for you to take to your physician and say, I'm interested in this. This involves,
you don't have to parse it out for yourself. That's nice.
Yeah. So that was a project we did a few years ago, kind of because people were really crying out for more detail than we were giving them just in the short summary.
How big is your staff as they handle this? And do you work on this as part-time too? Or is this like a full-time job?
I'm a volunteer, and we have 3 staff, and they each work on it a day a week, so not a lot of time. And aside from that, we've got our former director, who was also one of the founders of the database. She's still involved, and a couple of other people. And we have a board of like a board that we consult to, who are researchers who are all over the world, that kind of provide input and ideas, and hopefully help us secure more funding opportunities as well.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, for people all over the world, how much feedback do you get from them using it? Like, is this primarily used by Australians, or does this do you get a lot of feedback? Like, do people in the US use it a lot?
I'm glad you asked that question as well, because we did a bit of a survey recently of who our users were, and still the majority are in Australia or New Zealand. We have about 10% of users in the UK. We've got a lot of links with the British researchers, and we've got about 5% that are in the US, a couple of percent that are in Canada, and a few dotted around the rest of the world. So we're certainly looking to foster more links with the US, because, I think if you looked at, like the brain injury rehab, where people are doing brain injury rehab, it's mostly in the US.
Yeah, I've done a shitload of that. So what's your plan to do that? How do you plan on achieving that?
Well, yeah, we're reaching out to people. I don't want to say too much, because we haven't made. We'll be getting a couple of US-based researchers a bit more involved, hopefully, if they're interested in being part of it.
Okay, but are you just reaching out to them, like sending out feelers and stuff? Like, which ones have you reached out to?
I wouldn't want to say at this point.
Well, what places do they work for? Are you targeting them based on university?
There's a wonderful network of TBI researchers in the US. There's actually a couple of wonderful networks. There's a TBI Model Systems, and there's also the US military does an enormous amount of work and research in this area too. So
yeah, it causes a lot of TBI.
I guess we were looking at those. Yeah. And they have a lot of money for research, so that's good too. Yeah.
I was never going to join the military, but I know what happens to them.
Yeah. So what else did you want to know?
Really, it was a lot about NeuroBITE, just because I didn't understand it. And, and I was looking at your other research too. What else are you working on, like outside of NeuroBITE, that's new for you?
Well, for me personally, NeuroBITE's my big thing at the moment. I'm working mostly as a clinician myself. So I'm pretty busy with trying to help people such as yourself, maybe a little bit earlier on in their recoveries. And yeah, just busy with that. That seems to be, it's such an interesting and rewarding job to have. So
how much, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I feel like that, and getting to ride my bicycle if I get the chance.
Do you ride outdoors too?
Yeah.
I mostly ride on Zwift now, if you're not familiar with that.
I know Zwift, yeah. I was doing Zwift for a while, and it was good. I was training for I was actually training for a training camp, if you catch my drift. Mm-hmm. And that was in a beautiful kind of mountain area down in Victoria. And then I went away on the training camp, and it was so beautiful riding in the mountains. And I got home and it started to rain a lot. It's been raining for months in Sydney. And I thought about getting back on my trainer and just thought, I cannot do that after being out in like beautiful, beautiful weather. But Zwift is great.
I didn't know you guys had a lot of mountains.
They're not really mountains compared to what you got. You look at them and go, they're hills.
Well, how many meters tall are they?
Our tallest mountains are about 2,400 meters.
So that's kind of sort of what they are where I live. I don't live in the Rocky Mountains where they get really high. I live in the Appalachian Mountains. Those are the older mountains.
Oh, okay.
And they're kind of weathered down over time. Actually, part of the Appalachian mountain chain, because of the continents being together at Pangea at one point, it's in, was it Ireland? So, yeah.
Wow.
But
so, yeah, so that's what I'm doing. So what else do you want to know, Eric?
Well, that was actually it, because, you know, you're the only person I found that ran any kind of database like that. And, well, yeah, it is interesting because it's a, you know, even though a lot of people won't understand it, you know, people in, for instance, in the TBI subreddit, I don't know if you're familiar with Reddit, of all places, it's like a wild, wild west out there. But, you know, they don't know anything about this, and they can look up stuff themselves. And obviously, you know, you don't ever want to self-diagnose, but now you have the tools to take it to your clinician to see, well, oh, this is what my problem is. You know, or this is, I found, can we look at this as a treatment option? You know, I'm not saying that every physician knows everything that's out there. You know, you can bring them to some study like, yeah, I've heard of something similar to that before. This is what I think. Or they may have not heard anything before, because, you know, like the ketamine therapy thing, you know, doctors know of it now, but they don't know, you know, a lot of particular details, because that's kind of a specialty area, you know. And they can look into it further in that downtime. Yep.
Well, it would be great if you're on the TBI subreddits. You can tell I'm not very familiar with that. You know, please, you know, talk about us and put our you know, put a link to our website there, and that would be awesome, because, you know, when we're looking at our user stats, it does help us a lot if we're broader than just Australia.
Well, that's the thing, you know, it's global. It's all over, you know. Of course, it's anonymous because nobody knows who you are. But, yeah, it's got a global reach. I'll put it up with this interview, too.
Excellent. All right, well, I guess that's kind of it from me, unless there's anything I want to know. But thanks for your interest in NeuroBITE.
Did you want to know anything else about me before you go? Anything that's interesting?
Yeah, I want to know what you're up to with your like training and stuff, and what are you doing these days?
Right now, I'm just getting back into training, and I'm doing a bunch of half Ironmans this summer or your winter.
Wow.
Yeah. Just because, and then next year I'm doing a really iconic race. I've been out of Ironman hiatus since before my accident. I actually did an Ironman 10 days before I got hit.
Wow.
And then I'm coming back for one. It's a really iconic race in Germany called Challenge Roth.
Wow.
It's you know, outside of Kona, it is the most notable Ironman, but it's bigger than Kona. On a scale of like participants and, you know, spectators too. Wow,
that's awesome. I mean, you know, in Australia, Ironman is huge.
Yeah, you know? I'm actually familiar with that. I talked to another guy yesterday morning. He's a pro triathlete from Australia. He's up on the Gold Coast.
Who was that?
Tim Van Berkel.
I will look him up. I don't really know who's current these days, but as a kid growing up in Australia, they're like heroes.
He's been in the sport for a long time now. He's 38. He turned pro when he was like 21.
Right. And he's in the Gold Coast. Wow, that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, there we go. Amazing. Yeah. Excellent. It always freaks me out when I look at these people and I see their height, it's about the same as mine, and their weight's about 10 kilos less.
Well, that's the thing. There's not a lot of really tall people in triathlon. Like Sam Long is one, and John Frodeno, but there's not a lot of 6'4" guys. A lot of them are like average height and they're lightweight, but the lighter you are, that just means it's harder to push more watts.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's great. Well, I'm hoping your training goes well. If I get back on Zwift, I'll look out for, I might send you a message, see what your Zwift name is, see if we can go for a ride on Zwift together.
Yeah, sure. It's actually the same. It should be the same as everything else. I use Espo Swim Bike Run for everything.
Right. Cool. Excellent. All right. Well, I hope you have a good rest of your day, Eric.
Yeah. Thank you, Doc. Enjoy your evening, or have a nice sleep.
I'm about to go to sleep now.
Yeah.
All right. See you.